London has indirectly threatened to break off negotiations on a free trade agreement. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson complained on Friday that the EU was moving too little, and UK Chief Negotiator David Frost told EU Chief Negotiator Michel Barnier that there is no use of the EU delegation to come to London on Monday. If they would have left it with that, they at least would have brought some credibility to the newest threat. But at the same time, David Frost agreed with Michel Barnier to continue talking in the beginning of the week, hence Monday, via the phone or video conference. And so it's just another symbol, and my suspicions from Friday are still standing. On the EU side, French President Emmanuel Macron is one of those who also plays high poker and plays particularly hard. Time is now extremely short. The Brexit transition period expires at the end of this year. If the negotiations finally failed, what will happen to economic relations from January 1st? Without a free trade agreement, trade between the EU and the UK would be subject to World Trade Organization, that means WTO rules, and many goods would be subject to tariffs. That would be painful for both sides, especially since some products have previously crossed the channel several times in order to be processed further. On the part of the EU, a no deal would probably mean new trade barriers, tariffs, bureaucratic hurdles, inspections, says Gabriel Felbermayr, head of the Kiel Institute of the World Economy. For the UK, it depends very much on how London implements a hard Brexit. Nobody is forcing the British to erect high barriers that would primarily harm themselves. It was always clear that there would be traffic jams at the borders after January 1st. Customs declarations and controls, including norms and standards such as animal and health protection, cannot be avoided with a free trade agreement. So what would make WTO tariffs particularly expensive? The average tariff level vis-à-vis third countries is below 5%. That would be bearable still. But it would be painful for the auto industry, for example. The tariffs for cars is 10% and that for auto parts is 4.5%. That adds up to billions for the industry alone. The highest WTO tariffs are in the agricultural sector, explains Lisandra Flach, head of the IFO Center for Foreign Trade. The average there is around 15%. The WTO tariffs would be bitter for lovers of English blue mold or cheddar cheese here in Germany, for example. The duty rates for dairy products are 37.5%. 11.5% are charged for clothing and 8% for shoes. The EU and Britain could not simply refrain from levying WTO-level tariffs. The WTO rules only allow such a thing if it then also applies to all other members. Car tariffs would then also have to be waived for the Americans and others. But which UK industries and companies are particularly trembling? The automotive industry and its suppliers are particularly worried. The automakers Nissan and Toyota, which have larger plants on the island, are alarmed. The German BMW Group, with its mini plant in Oxford, would also be hit. And even if a simple free trade agreement comes about, compliance with the complex rules of origin for the automotive industry with its complex products is particularly difficult, says IBW trade economist Felbermayr. Agriculture and fishing would also have problems. And which German car sectors or companies would be particularly hard hit by a no-deal Brexit? The leading trade associations have been warning of the consequences for export and supply chains for months. German companies exported goods worth almost 79 billion euros to Great Britain in 2019. A good quarter of these are cars and supplier parts, followed by machines and electronics. The share of pharmaceutical products has fallen to just under 5%. Imports recently totaled a good 38 billion euros. It is noticeable that German exports have been falling year after year since the 2016 Brexit vote. In 2015, the UK was Germany's fifth most important trading partner. Today, it ranks 7th or 8th, depending on which statistics you have a look. But why is fishing so competitive? Access for EU fishermen to UK fishing grounds is a major issue. The EU wants to continue as before, reduce the British. So far, the EU's catch quotas have been divided between the member states. The British are allowed to fish around 9% of the cod in the English Channel, the French 84%, and there are more than 100 types of fish. The economic importance of fishing is manageable. It is less than 1% of economic output on both sides. There are said to be 180,000 fishermen in the EU compared to just over 12,000 on the British side. In some EU countries, however, fishermen are important groups of voters. This applies above all to France, where President Macron has his back to the wall anyway politically. France in particular acted correspondingly hard. But overall, how much would a no-deal Brexit cost economically? It's of course difficult to estimate how high the total damage would be for the German economy, for example. I'm German, and so of course I bring up German examples whenever I can in these videos. With regard to the auto industry, the German Chamber of Commerce and Industry has calculated that without an agreement, it alone could face tariffs of 2 billion euros a year. According to the association, around 750,000 jobs in Germany depend on exports to Great Britain. Because nobody knows how a no-deal Brexit would really be implemented, you can only do scenario calculations, emphasizes Felbermayr. In addition, it's unclear how many of the expensive necessary adjustments companies have already made since the Brexit referendum in June 2016. According to the latest estimates by the Kiel Institute, the damage for the UK is between 0.5 and 2.7%, and for Germany between 0.5 and 0.7% of the GDP. At least 17 billion euros, and that as an annually recurring loss. When comparing no-deal Brexit and the deal proposed by Johnson, the London National Institute for Economic and Social Research comes to a difference of a good 2% GDP for the British, a loss of more than 40 billion pounds. With what you might call a prelude to all of this, American rating agency Moody's has lowered the UK's credit rating. They justified the poor rating with the fact that Great Britain's economic strength was weakening because of the Brexit and the corona crisis. In addition, Prime Minister Boris Johnson's budget planning is unclear, the agency said. Johnson had recently prepared his country for a hard break with the EU without a trade deal, and that adds in too. Moody's downgraded its UK long-term debt rating by one notch from AA2 to AA3. Great Britain is thus on a level now with Belgium or the Czech Republic. The growth is significantly weaker than expected, and it should stay that way in the future, said Moody's. This is made worse by the decision to leave the EU and the UK's subsequent inability to enter into a trade deal with the EU. In addition, the state's financial strength has declined and state institutions and leadership have been weakened in recent years. However, the agency changed its outlook from negative to stable. That means they don't expect to downgrade Britain's creditworthiness any further in the medium term. With the current rating, the fourth best in Moody's rating system, bonds for Great Britain are still considered to be a safe investment with a very low credit risk in an international comparison. The best rating AAA means a minimal credit risk. And just some fun for the comments, just guess what the current rating of Germany is. And if you now want to know more about European or global politics, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you on the end screen. And if you want to have a look at my newest channel, it's right there. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!